So first video on the channel. I want to thank you guys for logging in and joining us, and it's going to be fun. So today we're flying the Cessna Citation Longitude, really nice general aviation aircraft, capable of over 3,000 nautical miles of flight. We're not going that far today, though. Today we're just going to be doing touch and goes here at Washington Reagan. And we're going to be doing one of my favorite approaches, which is the river visual 19. You're basically flying down the Potomac River towards runway 19 in an easterly direction, and you're looking for visual cues along the runway, along the river, in terms of your speed and altitude. And we'll be going over those visual cues and the approach itself during this video. Just really trying to refine that approach. It's a beautiful approach. You obviously have the nation's capital, you have the Washington Monument, White House, Lincoln Memorial, you have the Pentagon here straight ahead that are all within sight as you're descending into Washington. But you also have to contend with the fact that obviously the mall, the White House, the Capitol, all of those things that we're seeing in front of us lie within a no-fly zone. So it's very critical that you don't go into that area because, as we all know, you will be shot down. Let's not aim for that today. All right, so we're back here at our aircraft. I have the honeycomb alpha yoke, so a lot of the things I'll be doing, you won't necessarily see me pressing mouse clicks with, and I just wanted to explain to you that's why. All right, let's get back in our plane here. I'm just trying to look at the comments section here, so if you guys are saying anything to me, I can reply. So give me one moment while I pull that up, and then we'll get on our way here. A little new to live streaming, so we're learning as we go. But that's part of the fun, right, folks? I think so. Okay, all right. So we're back in the cockpit, and we're going to turn on our battery. Battery are these buttons here. Battery's on. And we'll see our PFD, FMS, all of our flight systems coming up here. We're going to get our navigation lights on, which is that button there, recognition. So we have our port red and our starboard green navigation lights on. Cool. All right. Now that that's done, we're going to get our
system test.
Our APU fired up. So just flick that to start. And before we're on APU, we'll have external power. We're also going to turn on our left generator, our right generator. I'm going to come over here to our navigation source, set that to GPS, PFD, wind option 3. These are just the ways I like to set up my plane. Today we're flying visually, so it's really not important to have our nav source selected, but it's just like habit for me at this point. So I like going through my normal pre-flight routines, despite flying visually. Okay, so you'll hear the APU firing up there, and it sounds like it's fully fired up. We have APU at 100% here, so we're going to flick over to our APU generator, and we can now turn off our external power. Okay, so we're fully powered by the APU at this point. We're going to turn on our beacon lights, which you just saw flick on there. Okay. And that is to indicate our neighboring aircraft. This is our beacon light here, that red blinking light. That says, hey, we're about to push back here. Watch out. Okay. All right. So let's get this party started. We're going to go and push back. Ground services, Washington ground, west pushback. And we're going to disengage our parking brake, engage our tow brakes until our tug is lined up. Pushback in this game is not great, as I'm sure many of you guys are aware. I've seen some other channels where they've had kind of neat mods that they've been able to put together to circumvent this pushback, and I think I might have to do that myself. Because this is a pain, as you're about to see. So you have to have this window pulled up. Okay. Stay on my tow brakes here until he's hooked up, and he takes his sweet time hooking up here. And there we go. Okay, so tow brakes are off, no braking action anymore. And we're going to want to turn our tail here to the left, so intuitively, of course, we're going to hit right. Makes a lot of sense. I know. Alright. To the right. And we're going to start engine number 1 at this point. There we go. Engine number 1 is coming online. Straighten out here. And we're going to continue that. Turn to the left to align ourselves here with the taxi line. Washington Reagan has really short runways. Runway 19 and runway 1 are the two. Is the longest runway, and it's just a little bit over 7,000 feet. I think it's just shy of 8,000 feet if I'm not mistaken. So you're not playing with a lot of runway here. As a result, jumbos never fly in and out of Reagan. It's strictly, I guess with the exception of some Canadian flights, it's strictly a domestic airport. And as a result, you're basically, you know what, they might fly to Cancun from here. I'd have to check on that. But it's for like 99% of the flights here are domestic. And the largest planes you're going to see coming through here are, you know, an Airbus A321 or a Boeing 757. You're not getting any larger than that. I should have been paying attention here. We have a clean start on engine number 1, N2 of 60, N1 of 18. Oil PSI, temperature looks good, so we're going to start up number 2. And we're going to watch that start up. While we're getting started here, let me put on our parking brake back on. We're going to do some pre-taxi checklists. So let's check our rudder, see it's free and clear, so rudder left, rudder right. I have the Logitech, what are they, the G-Tech rudder pedals. They're okay, they're not secured to my floor, so sometimes I'll apply too much pressure and they move, which isn't great. You'll probably notice that today. Alright, elevator check. Down, up, free and clear. Ailerons right, down on the left, up on the right. Left, up on the left, down on the right. Looks good. Speed brake. Speed brake is up. Looks good. And we're going flaps 15 for takeoff today, so we'll set our flaps at this time. Okay, we have engine number 1 just about completely fired up here now. We are at N1 of 18, so we're good. Now at this point we'll turn off our APU. So that's off. We'll also turn off our APU generator, which is now off. Cool. Looks good, guys. So we're going to turn on our taxi lights. It's the last thing I do. I usually do that when I get taxi clearance, but we're flying without ATC today. So I'll just do it in my head. Okay, and then let's get our map zoomed in a bit here. Basically, for our taxi, we will be crossing runway 15, which is just here to our left, and we will then be holding short of 19 prior to takeoff. Alright, so we will disengage our parking brake. And let's start taxi. So, let's see here. We're going to be crossing here at the next taxiway. Slow down here a bit. You know, I found the rudder pedals, the biggest change they made for me compared to using the keyboard was when taxiing on the ground. You just have a lot more control. When you're using the keyboard, it's a digital input, right? So you're either all or nothing in terms of your rudder deployment. When you have the rudder pedals, it's an analog input, so you can really feather them and have much better control. And you can also use the toe brake to just expedite your turn. So I found them to make a big difference, but again, I just need to get them secured to my floor, because they're not. It's a pain in the butt. Okay, forgot to mention, as we're crossing any active runway, even if it's non-active, you want to have your strobe lights on, so I had engaged those. And now that we're coming off of the active runway here, we're just going to switch our strobes back off, so they're back off now. Okay. A lot of people seem to have trouble taxiing and holding the center line when they're in this cockpit view. And what I found to be most helpful is if you actually look here at your PFD and you look at this little heading bug here, just align that with your center line, and that will indicate that you're completely centered. So you see that I have that center now. We're just going to hold short here. And when I zoom out, you'll see that my front wheel is smack dab on that center line. So that's a good way to orient yourself, because otherwise you have to look at visual cues here. Like for example, using this master caution button as an indication of your center line is another way you can do it. So either way, get familiarized with what holding the center line looks like in whatever aircraft you're flying. Okay, we're going to zoom out here a bit on our map, and we're going to just do a few pre-flight things. We're going to get our pitot heat on, anti-ice, windshield de-ice. All of those are on. Okay, and we're now ready to take off. Obviously we don't need takeoff clearance, no ATC. We're going to turn off our taxi lights, we're going to turn on our landing lights, we're going to turn on our strobe lights. Okay, and now let's get lined up here with the center line. And we're going to do a full stop prior to takeoff, just so we can get maximum acceleration out of here. Okay, I'm going to use that trick again to get us lined up properly. Looks good. Alright, so we're lined up and we are ready for takeoff. So we're going to set our throttle to 50%, release our toe brakes, go throttle 94%. Takeoff power is set, airspeed is alive. Okay, we're now looking for V1. V1 is about 110 today. Okay, V1. Rotate. Positive rate. Gear up.
Landing here. Landing here.
Okay, so we are out of here. So we're going to trim up the nose a little bit here so we can maintain about a 10-degree rate of climb. And we're just going to continue this climb southward down the Potomac. We have National Landing coming up here on our left. Alexandria, Virginia. Right, we're going to go flap 7. Climbing to about 3,000 feet for this procedure, and we're going to have flaps now. Flaps are up. Okay, we're going to start our turn right here to enter into the river visual 19 for KDCA. Okay, so like I said, we're climbing to about 3,000 feet. We're going to start in a westerly heading now. And basically, if you're familiar with the DC area, we're just going to follow more or less the Capitol Beltway. That will basically take us to the beginning of this visual approach. Okay, we're leveling off here at 3,000 feet. And we're making sure that we don't exceed 250 knots. Because below 10,000 feet, the speed limit's under 250. Okay, here we are. Let's get our yellow damper on. I should have had that on a while ago, but I'm talking to you guys, so I'm forgetting procedures. Alright, so yeah, now we're just going to basically fly along the beltway here, which is this road directly beneath us, and which is going to take us to the beginning of our visual approach. And the beginning of the visual approach is just on the westerly bridge of the DC Beltway, just east of Potomac, Maryland. It's actually called Carter-Rock, Maryland, and it's the site. There's a visual aid there that's used on this approach, which is the Naval Surface Warfare Weapons. I think that's what it's called, Naval Surface Weapons Warfare Training Center, or something like that. It's a long acronym, and I could go into it if you wanted. But basically, it's this really long, very unique one. You recognize it miles away. That simulates waves, and they use that to test like warships and naval weapon systems. So it's one of the largest wave pools I think in the world, if not the largest. As well, it's kind of a distinctive building, so that's what we'd be looking for. And that was a lot of info you guys never asked for, but you got it anyway. Okay, so we're coming along here on the westerly edge of the Beltway, and I'm climbing around this turn. I shouldn't be doing that. I don't have any of my autopilot settings on. I just wanted to fly this strictly by hand in a visual manner. It's most fun. Generally, you'd probably have some autopilot settings on to hold altitude and speed and so forth. But whatever, it's more fun to fly manual, or practice as well. Okay, so here we are coming up on the westerly side of the Beltway. We're now heading due north, and this is Tyson's Corner beneath us, which is a big regional hub of the Washington area, home to some really large Fortune 500 companies, as well as a couple really large regional shopping malls. We have the Tyson's Corner Center. Actually, that's not it yet. It's coming up here. This is, I think, Fairfax. So Tyson's is this area just ahead of us here. But yeah, very large business hub of the DC area. And then, of course, off to our west a bit more is Dulles International, and you can see that there. And that is another main airport in the DC area. Wow, I am really overspeeding. Jesus.
Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear.
Slow down significantly. That's mostly international flights. The majority of the air traffic in the DC area these days is coming to Washington Reagan, where we're flying in and out of today, for the simple reason that it's the most close to DC. So it's like, with traffic, it can be over an hour car ride from Dulles to downtown DC. Alright, so this is the Naval Surface Warfare Systems. I'm just going to keep butchering that, but you know what I'm talking about. It's this building here, this complex, huge complex along the river, and that's where we're going to begin our approach. Okay, we're a little low here. Where you'd want to normally be is about 3,000 feet as you cross this bridge here, which is the American Legion Bridge, which is basically the westerly bridge that connects 495, which is the Beltway, from Virginia to Maryland. Okay, so as we're coming across the bridge here, we want to be at 3,000 feet. I'm going to put in flap 7 here to slow us down. We want to be at 180 knots or so as we start our descent. You have the CIA here at about 1 o'clock. That's in Langley, Virginia. And now we're literally just going to follow this river. And our next waypoint for our descent is going to be the Chain Bridge. And at the Chain Bridge, we're going to want to be at 1,800 feet. From the American Legion Bridge, you want to descend at about 1,200 feet per minute. So pretty rapid rate of descent for a final approach. We are coming in fast, and we're coming in maybe a little. I think we're about right in terms of altitude here. The Chain Bridge is this bridge right there. So at that bridge, we want to be at 1,800 feet. And we're looking pretty good so far. Just going to follow this river the whole way down. Going to trim up here a little bit. Our rate of descent's getting a little fast for my liking. So we're going to trim up, slow that rate of descent. And we're just going to stay about even here because we are at 1,800 feet now. Alright, now that we're at Chain Bridge, we're going to go gear down. We're going to go flaps 15. Trim down a little bit because of that added lift from the flaps. Our next visual waypoint is Georgetown Reservoir, which is this body of water right here in Georgetown. And at Georgetown Reservoir, we want to be at 1,500 feet. And we're already there because I'm not paying attention. I'm talking to you guys. So we're going to just maintain this altitude, speed up a little bit, and stay at 1,500 feet. Okay. Our next visual waypoint, you have Rosslyn, Virginia right here, and you have the Key Bridge, which is connecting Georgetown and DC to Rosslyn, Virginia. That's going to be our next waypoint, and that's going to be at 900 feet. So we're going to continue our descent. Once we're at the Key Bridge, we want to be at our final approach speed, which is about 130 knots. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get us throttle back a bit to about 160, at which point we're going to drop to flaps 30, continue to trim down, and those flaps, with the added drag, are going to take us down to our final approach speed with no speed brake needed. Okay, there we go. Going to be at about 900 feet here over Key Bridge, looking good. Apply some throttle here to keep us moving. All right. And we have the Kennedy Center ahead of us now. That's the Watergate Hotel right there. You have the Lincoln Memorial there. You have the Washington Monument ahead of us. You have the Pentagon off there at 1 o'clock. And we are going a little fast. We're going to bring back the throttle here. We'll get about 130. We're going to hug the left side of the river here so that on our final turn to the right, we can really maximize our turning radius here. So we're going to be right here, hugging the left, that border, the boundary of that no-fly zone. Really coming close. Get a great view of the Washington Monument right there. And we are a bit low, so we're going to apply throttle here. We're lower than we want to be. So this first pass through is, I'm just going to say it at this point, not how you want to fly this bridge. It wouldn't be bad, but there are a couple changes to make. So first I'm showing you how to not. Okay. Alright, our poppy is indicating 2 red, 2 white, so we're looking good in terms of our flight, our glide path. Glide slope. We're a little high now. Come down, and we're a little fast. So this is just all across the board, not a good approach on my part. But we're going to grease the landing, okay? Okay, all wheels down. We're going to now go full power. And 115, rotate. Positive rate, gear up.
Landing gear.
Trim up.
Landing gear. Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink.
Alright, so that's the basics of it. Now that I've shown you guys how to do it, I'm just going to try to do it actually a little bit better myself on this second attempt. I think what you'll notice with this approach is that it takes a little practice. Just about the really muscle memory of it. Okay, so we have flaps up. Make our westerly turn here. And look for the beltway, which we have there. There's a little sort of canal that runs alongside of it. Stream, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so getting oriented westerly here. We're going to start emptying that turn. And we're already at 3,000. Those of you watching this on replay, one of the best ways to watch my channel is to just go to the settings mode on the toolbar on YouTube and turn the playback speed up to 2. So then you don't have to spend all your time watching all these boring parts of the video. You can just speed up and get to the parts that you'd like to watch, such as the approach. Alright, so the beltway, as you can see here, is starting to turn northerly, so we're just going to start that turn as well. And guys, if you're really getting serious about flight sims, I highly recommend getting the peripherals to make this the real deal, or as close to it as you can. And what I mean by that are getting yourself a good yoke, getting yourself a good throttle, and then getting yourself some rudder pedals. It really makes all the difference. And I've never seen a keyboard as used as flight controls in an airplane. So if you'd actually one day like to fly a real airplane, it'd probably benefit you a little bit more than just like pressing F3 to increase your throttle or whatever. Just my personal advice. Although, as I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware, it's like straight up impossible to find any of these peripherals right now, and if you do find them, they're probably trading on eBay for like twice their price. That was at least the situation last I checked, so it's obviously crazy with COVID and everyone staying home and the release of this game. There's just a lot going on. led to a large amount of demand for these products. Alright, gone a little slow here, so I'll just speed up rather than hold you guys around forever. That naval test site coming up again about our 1 o'clock. So we're going to just use that to set up our turn here to set up for the river control bridge. Okay, so we're looking pretty good here. I mean, we're going fast, so I'm going to start bringing that throttle back. And we were pretty good with altitude, but I always sort of seem to go up when I turn. That's really an issue of my own. Alright, so we're getting down here to about 220 knots. At about 210, I'm going to go flaps 7. Or 7. Okay, and we are very high, so once we get to the bridge, we should be at about 3,000. Let's try and get there now. There we go. Speed's bleeding off. Altitude's dropping. Looks good. Okay. Alright, like I said, next altitude we're looking for is 1,800 feet. Since we're starting a little high here, we're going to have to descend just a little bit more rapidly. All about your trim here and making sure you're trimming properly. A little slow here for flaps 5, so I'm just going to increase our airspeed here a bit. That's fine. Sorry, flaps 7. Okay, here we go. Let's see that chain bridge coming up there. Holding 1,800. Get down here a little bit slower. We got flaps 15.
Landing gear. Landing gear.
Gear down.
Landing gear.
And now we want 1,500 feet at the reservoir. Your rate of descent obviously here needs to decline pretty substantially, and that's going to help you bleed off your airspeed because, I mean, you're descending 300 feet from the chain bridge to the reservoir. So at this point, you're just sort of doing level flight with a very slow rate of descent. And you're looking for that airspeed to bleed off. Once we get here to about 160 knots or so, once we're over the reservoir, we're going to go flaps 30. Okay, so here we are. This is about perfect. We're at 1,500. We're at 160 knots. Flaps 30. Pitch down to circumvent the increase in lift that we just got. And now we're looking for 900 feet, final approach speed 130 knots at the key bridge here at our 12 o'clock. So we're already a little slow. We'll just add some throttle. Make sure we're still descending a bit here. Okay, looking good, looking good. The less I talk, the better I fly, I've learned. Okay, So we're at 900 feet, final approach speed 130 knots, check, check, everything looks good, let's keep it going. Again, you want to level off a bit here so that you're not too low on final approach. Keep that final approach speed even. Okay, we're looking good. A little fast, we're going to slow down a bit. Looking good, looking good. And we've got 2 red, 2 white, looking good with the poppy.
500.
Descending while turning here is probably the hardest part of this approach. Gotta make sure that you descend while you turn. Okay, here we go. Not entirely lined up here for the final. Had to do a little bit of correction there. And we're a little high. We're okay. Alright, let's go around. Rotate. Gear up.
Landing gear. Landing gear. Don't sink. 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 Landing gear.
Alright, this will be our final landing here, so we'll do a full stop after this landing.
Landing gear.
I think we did pretty well on that last one. The only issue that I had with that approach was on that final turn there. Just we're a little unstable on that final approach. So we can see if we can just perfect that a little bit on this final go around. I think we can. I think we got it. Looks like we have a little technical issue here. Usually this resolves, but we'll see what happens. There we we go. Sometimes you just have to hit a control. My sim's been doing that lately. I don't know exactly why. But at least it doesn't crash. It just freezes temporarily. Couldn't explain it. Alright, we got the naval building ahead. We're going to start our turn here. Slow down.
Landing gear. Landing gear.
Alright, American Legion Bridge is at our 1 o'clock. You can see it there just over the Cowan. So we start our turn here to align ourselves with the river. And we can kind of descend a little early here, but we'll just keep it moving. Flaps 5. Sorry, flaps 7. Alright, great altitude, great speed at this point, looking good. Descending a little bit fast here, so we'll just trim up. Looking good. Good airspeed, good altitude. By the way, if you're ever actually flying this in person, obviously sit on the right side of the plane. I think that goes without being said. But the view of DC is going to be much better than the view of Virginia. So sit on the left side if you're arriving this way. If you're departing runway 19, sit on the right side of the plane. But you're guaranteed good views in DC unless you take off from runway 1. In which case you're not. So I guess you're not guaranteed good views. But when you get them, they're nice. Okay, we're coming up here on the chain bridge. We're gonna go gear down. We're looking for 3 green. I have actually LEDs on my throttle quadrant, so I can see. And we have 3 green. Gear down. Okay, we're at 1,800 feet now. Flaps 15. Looking for 1,500 feet at the reservoir. Pitch up. Slow our rate of descent. .60 knots, and we're going to be just at 1,500 feet, so that's pretty much perfect. Okay. Lovely. Okay. You know what's next. Flaps 30. Looking for 900 feet at the key bridge. Final approach speed 130 knots. Beautiful view, huh? at 900 feet. Unapproach speed, altitudes and speeds check. Continue. Trim up. It's that left side of the river. Trim up. Trim up. Alright, let's see if we can nail this final turn this time.
500.
We're a little low. I have 4 red, so we're just going to maintain altitude until we have... Okay, there we go. 2 red, 2 white. Glide slope's good. Can we nail the turn? That is the question. I think we may have gotten it. A little wobbly there. Oh, that was a hard touchdown. I don't know what happened with my reverse thrusters there. I deployed them. They didn't go out. That's super weird. Anyway, toe brakes. Exit right. Get our flaps up. And our speed brakes down. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that little tour of DC today, doing river visual on Reagan National River Visual Approach Runway 19. I sure had a good time. I think you guys would have an even better time if you did this on the sim, so I highly recommend doing that. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for tuning in.